Not at
Let's
all.
turn it up down here, man.
Underestimated and still I made it. In the book of hard knocks, I'm highly educated. Nobody chose me, looked over, but still dedicated. Played in the league for 13, I ain't gotta be favorite. 2 Super Bowls, Honolulu, I stood with the greatest. The thing is this, that never rich, I'm good with my neighbors. DB precision, television, ain't asked for no favors. Numbers don't lie, neither do pictures, just look in the papers. No backing down or turning back, part 2 of the movie. Never the biggest, but it takes more than 2 just to move me. Ain't gotta like what I'm saying, just watch me go to work and tackle all of these topics right here on Face First.
Man, I gotta let that play every time. And today is even more important that I'm hyped up about this show because this show is personal. This is why I love social media, people. Social media gives us topics. Yeah, it's the off season. College football is over. The Louisiana State University football Tigers are still the national champions. It doesn't matter whatever happened. And they had the greatest season of all time ever in college football for the 150 years it's been played. And so I follow Antro Roll on social media, and he posted, a picture of the 2001 Miami Hurricanes. Like, who even knew about football in Miami then? And, okay, I did. That was a lie. And Sconey did. But my first guest absolutely knew about this. And my first guest is a teammate of mine who comments after I make a post on Roll's page and says, well, the 2001 team was the best and the greatest, had the greatest season, and I'd actually come on your podcast and talk about it. And I was like, well, shoot, that works for me. And now listen, Clinton Portis is one of the best running backs I've ever played with. The first time I watched him run a football in person was the first touch of the 2004 season, and he goes 75 yards for a touchdown in Washington against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Before that, he had spent 2 years in Denver. He's traded for Champ Bailey, who at the time was the #1 corner in the league. And one thing people don't know about Clinton, he was the most physical pass blocker I've ever seen from the running back position. But along with all of those things, 1,000 yards rushing season, started his career with 4 straight. He was an All-American at the University of Miami. And he was in the backfield with guys like Frank Gore and guys like Willis McGahee. And so this backfield was stacked. And then you look at Andre Johnson on the outside, and there were the Jeremy Shockeys. And so there are all these players. And so I'm sure he has a feeling about this that's very personal. He's wrong, and we're going to hear why he's wrong. But right now, I want Clinton to come on and tell me why he thinks the Miami Hurricanes of 2001 were the greatest college football team of all time. Clinton, what's up, man?
What's going on, man? Appreciate you having me on the show. So first off, before we even get to that, just to go back to teammates, you know what? You were one of the guys as a teammate that I fought for. That I know you know that
I remember we talked about it. Yeah.
I remember us having this conversation when, bro, I tell people all the time that I remember talking to a young Ryan Clark that was paired with a young Sean T, and I thought it would have been the greatest secondary of safeties all time. And I still remember when Coach Gibbs told me they were going to get Adam Archuleta. I said, man, Adam Archuleta can't tackle me in a phone booth. Keep Ryan Clark. Do not let Ryan Clark go. And you moved on, and you had a great, you finished your career doing great things, winning 2 Super Bowl rings, so it worked out for you. But just as a fan of the game, I always appreciated how you played the game, how tough you were. I remember your confidence kind of being shot as, our first year in 2004, and just having a real one-on-one conversation with you and letting you know, bro, you deserve this. Like, you could play this game. You tough,
I remember, man.
Like, you're ferocious, and you're going to be good. And then for you to go on and have a career that you had, I always, just sit back with a smile like, bro, I remember when Ryan was, just confident. He wasn't getting out what he was putting into the game, and eventually you got it. So, just as a fan of the game, man, I loved it. I love you on TV. I love watching you. And your introduction just to hear your theme song, your personal theme song. I know you made it, man. I know you made it. But you're dead ass wrong. Not dead wrong. You're dead ass wrong if you think your LSU Tigers could have beat the 2001 Miami Hurricanes.
See, CP.
And this is the reason.
CP, I don't want to cut you off, right? Because, when I have an esteemed guest, I like to let them talk. But this is personal. It's not, you're looking at it as saying, okay, if these two teams were on the field together, you're sure that Miami would win. Now, I'm actually not even sure that would happen when you go back and look at this team. Come on, CP. You're going to start naming these dudes that weren't even great college players.
What dudes weren't great college players?
Your quarterback.
Bro, that's the only person you can name. And my quarterback, first off, my quarterback was an outstanding college player. He wasn't a great NFL player.
Okay.
But for college, Ken Dorsey was one of the better college quarterbacks that you will find. The only issue is we didn't get the luxury to pad the stats. We were out of the game at halftime, and that's what I tried to tell you on social media. Like, you're looking at 4 quarters from Joe Burrow. You're looking at a different offense. Joe Burrow, which I cheer for LSU. I told you, I'm from the SIP, so I've always been an LSU fan. So, with that being said, I watch LSU. I enjoy watching LSU. I cheer for LSU the entire season, even picking them in the championship game. But yet and still, when you watch Joe Burrow, when you watch Randy Moss Jr., Randy Moss.
Yeah, what are you talking about? Yeah.
Hey, the receivers. Now, I love y'all receivers, but will one of these kids turn out to be Andre Johnson? No, it won't happen. Your running back, tough, ferocious, he's mean. I love him. But will he turn out to be Clinton Portis, Frank Gore, or Willis McGahee? I don't believe so.
Right, but listen, CP.
I'm not even getting to the defensive side of the ball.
No, listen,
I left that argument for later.
Yeah, now defensively, when you start talking about those dudes were different for sure. But I'm not saying that Jamar Chase, who did win the Biletnikoff, or Justin Jefferson will someday have the NFL career that Andre Johnson had. But
it's
you can look
impact. They might have the yardage. They might have. I'm talking about the impact. If you think of the guys from the University of Miami, they all were game changers. If it was NCAA game breaker, bro, the entire team was a game changer. All right, everybody got a star by their name because they were game changers. But in college, we didn't get that luxury. We couldn't sit in the game. We couldn't pad our stats. You look at a Wisconsin or Ohio State. Teams where guys play the entire game and have 200-300 yards rushing. We didn't have that luxury. At halftime, it's time for Frankie G to come in and get his 100 yards. And he got to do it in the quarter because Willis want to get 100 yards. So we're trying to get 3 running backs to have 100 yards, and we playing a top 5, top 10 team. Whereas today's game has changed. It's only 4 or 5 schools that's loaded throughout the United States of America.
Now listen, CP,
Alabama, Clemson.
CP, that team that you were on wasn't playing top 5 teams all the time. Y'all definitely didn't play the top 5 and top 10 teams, or the top 4 and top 10 teams that the LSU Tigers played in the 2019 season. And when you speak about these guys getting to play whole games, Joe Burrow was sitting on the sideline in the 4th quarter of the college football playoffs. And so these dudes didn't have to play whole games. Miles Brennan got a lot of time backing up Joe Burrow. Now, I will give you this.
Bro, did you just say Joe Burrow was sitting on the sideline in the football? Look at the national championship game. Bro,
y'all played Nebraska.
The national championship. I'm not talking about the semifinals. I'm talking about the national championship. Bro, we were celebrating at halftime.
Y'all were.
I had a rose in my mouth at halftime. The game was over.
Y'all ended up playing a team. Y'all ended up playing a team whose quarterback didn't even play quarterback anymore after that day. Right? You got to remember
that was not our fault.
It was not.
That's not my fault. They pubbed him. They had him as the top quarterback in the nation. Eric Crouch, everybody loved him when he was in college. He was the face of college football.
He was.
He was just like Joe Burrow. He was the face of college football.
No, he was not. No, he was not Joe Burrow, CP.
Bro, he
Cut
was
it
the
out.
face of college football.
CP, we all knew that game was over when Andre runs a 9 route down the sideline, burns the cornerback from Nebraska. I'm not saying that team wasn't by far and away the best team that year. I'm not saying that the collection of players individually and what they became in the NFL doesn't make that team, when you look back on it, you say talent for talent, right? Which is when you look at the 30 for 30 on the U, right? And it had to have different chapters of that because you have the 80s and you have the 90s and then you had the 2000s. You have these different eras of this team. I get what y'all wore individually, but when you look at the number of top 4 teams, not 5, top 4 teams LSU had to beat this year, you look at who they had to play just in conference, in their division, on their side. Then you go to the East and you play Florida, who was a top 10 team at the time of playing them. Auburn, who even this year would have beaten every ACC team minus Clemson. The type of schedule that this team had to play. And also, you're mentioning these players. LSU they won the best quarterback, the best wide receiver, the best defensive back, the best head coach, the best assistant coach. Player for player, accomplishment for accomplishment, this Louisiana State University football team, and I keep saying the whole name so you can hear it, Clinton, they had the greater season. Y'all might have been the
That is BS. This is a social media a popularity contest. Understand where the game is today. When teams clean up, they clean up. When Alabama clean up, their team normally wins everything. When Clemson cleans up, their team wins everything. This isn't one of those where you have Michael Vick playing at Virginia Tech and you got Maurice Claret at Ohio State where you have competition spread. Everybody already know it's coming out of Clemson, Alabama. Those are the 2 teams that everything is all the awards will be won. Then maybe you get Georgia, LSU, and Ohio State in the mix. That's where all the talent is. That's all 5 programs is loaded in college football. But when it comes to panning out in the NFL, they disappear. These players don't pan out. They're not who they say they are. Herm Edwards is your man. They are not who they say they are, Ryan Clark.
That is, first off, that's Denny Green, right? That's Denny Green.
I mean Denny Green. Denny Green, your man.
That's Denny Green. But I understand that. I'm not talking about what they pan out to be, though, CP. I agree with you. I love Clyde. I think Clyde's going to be a good pro. I don't know if Clyde will be the pro that Clinton Portis was, but you were different. You act like we're comparing Clyde to somebody who wasn't a Pro Bowler, right? For somebody who didn't start in that league for 9 years, for somebody who wasn't traded and didn't given a bigger contract at the only 2 years of playing. You're comparing different things, and I understand who Andre is. Andre is going to be a Hall of Famer. So I see all of these things, but when you look at the college production, right, and you talk about game changing, these dudes changed the game, at least in my estimation, especially on the offensive side of the ball. They changed the game in a way that players on your team did not. I understand when you look at the potential for being.
You have to be kidding me. You have to be kidding me. Listen, if you take OBJ and Landry, that was your best receiving core, right?
Years ago,
OBJ
until this one,
was your best receiving core. No, forever OBJ and Landry will be the best. They're better than.
Both of those guys go. Both of those guys go for 1,000 yards, and they may be better individual wide receiver talents than these 2 guys. But you also have to remember, along with Jamar Chase, who won the Biletnikoff, Justin Jefferson, who in many other years would have also won it himself, right? He had, other than CeeDee Lamb and Jamar, had some of the best numbers in the country. And so then you look at Terrace Marshall, who was leading the team in touchdowns before he's injured early on in the season, and you add Thaddeus Moss to that. As a entire core, this was maybe the best college receiving core or set of targets that they've ever had in the history of college football.
It wasn't. That receiving core wasn't better than Andre Johnson, Reggie Wayne, Santana Moss, Jeremy Shockey, and a young Kellen Winslow.
None of those guys, they didn't produce like that, CP.
They did produce. It was too many balls. You had to share the ball when we was in college. Everybody you didn't highlight one individual player. That's what I'm trying to get at.
We didn't highlight them either. We didn't have to highlight these guys. We threw the ball all around the yard. We had 60 tugs passing.
They were getting 40 and 50 attempts a game. Like your quarterback throwing the ball 40 times a game. Bro, we didn't have that luxury. It's a different day and age. Now, like I said, I really love this team because you had multiple players that can play.
Mm-hmm.
I love the running back. I love the wide receivers. I think Chase is a dog.
For sure, he's first-round pick.
Chase is a dog. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So when I look at these guys, I'm looking at them with the notion of how do you pan out? Like, not scheme-wise, because college-wise, they were way more talented than anyone else.
I agree with that.
They were more talented than anyone else. But scheme-wise, you get a great coach to come in for a year. Y'all scheme was spectacular, and no one could stand up to it. And it panned out. Like, you all deserve to win the national championship.
Agreed.
But next year, this team disappears. Like, next year, do you still top Clemson and Alabama? Like, I don't believe
you know what?
You had a miracle run, and college football was down.
But that college football was not down. College football was college football. Clemson was Clemson. We just stumped the mud hole in them. That's what happened to Clemson. Now, you mentioned Alabama. We also went to Tuscaloosa and bust their heads, right? So this is the one thing I do want to give you an opportunity to get to. I know you got a flight to catch. You mentioned earlier this defense, the defense that you guys had. Talk a little bit about those players and not only the standout college players that they were, but who these dudes went on to be. Because I don't even want to steal your thunder in that. Now, would have this LSU team had put up 40 on them? For sure. Y'all would have had to score. Because they put up 40 on everybody. 40 points.
They would have put up 40 points?
They put up 40 points on everybody, CP.
Bro, are you kidding me?
I'm not talking about, I understand you got Rump and Buchanan and Ed, and you have all these guys, right? S. Dot. But still, LSU would have gave them points. They gave them to everybody. Bro, because it was scheme. Because you guys are going to match up one-on-one. You look at the backers. The backers were DJ, John, right? So, okay, let me break this down for you. As a sports fan, which I know you are, and you know I am. Right, as a sports fan, one of the coldest players that I've ever seen in my life is Philip Buchanan, right? One of the coldest players I've ever seen. No, in anything. In NFL as well. You got to think of Philip Buchanan in Oakland Charles Woodson. I remember.
They didn't give up anything. Then all of a sudden, Phil gets injured and, just whatever he had going on changed his career. He requested trade. It was a lot that happened.
Yeah, I agree.
But Philip Buchanan still was the most talented cornerback that I've ever seen. I seen Philip Buchanan guard Santana Moss in the slot, and you and I both know Santana Moss cannot be guarded in the slot.
Absolutely
Never
cannot.
Absolutely
cannot.
I seen Philip Buchanan run step for step with Santana Moss and back the ball down. I seen Philip Buchanan guard Andre Johnson. You all don't have anyone who could have done that. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not even talking about Ed Reed, who's probably the top safety of all time.
I agree
and
with
the guy who was backing him up, and a young Sean T would be number 2 of all time. This is over Ronnie Lott and all of these guys that I think were spectacular.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Now, to go to the linebacker position, Jonathan Vilma and DJ Williams, bad men. You see what I'm saying? Bad men. Killers. Hunters. If they could run. But we're forgetting Chris Campbell, God bless the dead, who's passed away, was probably the best linebacker that we had. Chris Campbell died in a car accident. Chris Campbell was like a maniac. Nobody wanted that trouble. You had to be on the team. It's like you being on Pittsburgh team and you're saying, hey, you know what? Here's the guy you got to watch out for while everyone else is looking at somebody else.
I see what you're saying.
Chris Campbell
I know what you mean
was a man-eater. Not to mention Vince Wilfork and Carlos Joseph on the D-line. Vince Wilfork is a future Hall of Famer, one of the best D-linemen of all time.
Yeah, the man could wear overalls and nobody tell him something. So, yeah, you're a bad dude.
And then he going to cook ribs outside the stadium for you. Understand, these are different individuals. You all don't have Jeremy Shockey is You was a teammate.
You know, I got drafted with Shock. Shock was a dog. Shock was a dog.
You already know Shocky is a dog. You already know Shocky crazy and gonna do it his way. You played with me. You know I'm crazy and gonna do it my way. That. We're not gonna get our just due, but pound for pound, you ain't seen. I don't care who it is. Didn't nobody want this trouble? I carry the organization.
Oh no, listen.
That.
That's why I
didn't have no help.
CP,
you stepped to me on the sideline to holler, CP, boy, I need you. Knowing the entire defense is scheming to stop me, you're not gonna stop me.
CP, I know this.
And do whatever it takes.
That I understand that, CP, and that's why I brought you on the way that I did, because everybody knew about how you ran the ball. What we talked about, even when I left Washington, when I would tell people, when we would talk about pass protecting and pass blocking running backs, I had never seen anybody step up into the middle, the A gap, the B gap, hit blitzing linebackers in their face. Sometimes you wouldn't even use your hands. And so, like, I get that with that physicality you're talking about, but you're saying people can't stand out in front of Andre. Christian Fulton has an opportunity to be a first-round pick. He was one corner. And we had an 18-year-old freshman who was a consensus All-American. That if he comes out this year, he's one of the top 2 guys drafted. Clemson didn't throw it at him in the championship.
Bro,
we're going to have the first safety pick.
Man, I like this man. But remember, Antrell Roll was on the bench. Remember, what's our cornerback that went to Seattle first round? Jennings.
Yeah, you had Jennings. What was
remember?
Mike Rump. Mike Rump came out that year, right?
Mike Rump.
Yep.
Yeah, Mike Rump, Philip Buchanan, like all of these was first rounders. We had 4 first-round cornerbacks. Are you kidding me? Antrell, Kelly Jennings, Philip Buchanan, Mike Rump.
Right, so we're gonna have.
You go to the safety position.
Grant Delpit.
You go to safety position.
Go ahead.
Grant Delpit, man, I thought Grant Delpit was that work. He was exposed, man. Grant Delpit was exposed.
Grant Delpit was injured, right? Grant Delpit was injured.
I don't give a. You know how many times you and I played injured? Can't nobody go and say we were exposed, injured or not.
CP, I get what you're saying about who these players were individually. I am not standing here to say that I believe that each of these individuals from LSU will be better pros. What I am telling you is the accomplishments of this team, the teams that they beat, the way that they beat them, the accolades and awards given totally trump what the University of Miami was in 2001. There's no way you can put these seasons side by side, look at who each team played, where they were at the time they played them, and the way that they performed, and think that Miami had a better season. I understand that you're going to feel individually being on the field with these guys that they were the better individual players, but they weren't the greatest collection of players in how they produced those, CP. And you got to get your feeling. You're emotional.
They were the great. Ryan, there's no emotions involved, right? There's no emotions involved. The game was totally different.
It was a different game. It was a different game.
You're talking about a time where the Miami Hurricanes was in the Big East. West Virginia was one of the hardest places to play, regardless of their record. Boston College was one of the toughest places to play, regardless of their record.
Are we comparing Boston College to Tuscaloosa right now?
No, we're not. I'm just saying at this time where it was competitive, Boston College at home if we played Boston College in Miami, we beat them by 7. If we play them at Boston College, where fans actually came out and supported games, the stadiums weren't empty at this time.
Right.
Where fans actually come out and say, this is our big test. We're going to be loud. We're going to be ferocious. It's gloomy at noon because the sun don't come out. It's cold. We're all from out of Miami. We don't have no weather gear. Everybody out here, like, bro, that used to matter in the game.
I agree with that.
This wasn't a situation where everybody come out fresh and, you know, like you dancing before the game. This was focused. It's time to go out here and put up a shut up. Let's get this game over with. You all never really faced adversity in a season. You all didn't face adversity. They blew everybody out.
That's not true. We went to Texas. We had to win there. We throw the dig route to Justin Jefferson to win it. Tuscaloosa, we had to call quarterback runs and quick passes to Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of the backfield. You're in a dogfight in the championship. You're down 10 to Clemson in the first half. This team faced a ton of adversity. You only win by 3 over Auburn at home. Like, they had to fight. They just were better than everybody. They finished. CP, I had you on for 30 minutes, so here's my last thing, CP. My last question for you. If you have one thing to point to as to why the University of Miami had the greatest team and the greatest season of all time in college football, and this has to be better than the 03, 4, and 5 USC teams. This has to be better than the LSU team of 2019, those great Alabama teams, Ohio States. Tell me the one reason that team was better and had a greater season than all of those other teams.
For one, no one knew of the overall collection of talent. No one could point out who the best player on those teams were. It was just competition throughout. So it was never, hey, this is so-and-so's team. The best thing the University of Miami could have done was make Ken Dorsey the face of the University of Miami. Because if it was anyone else, it might have created an issue. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So because Ken Dorsey is the face, and this is who carried the team, he has to spread the ball to everyone. And everyone is cool because of Ken Dorsey's personality. He's not competing with anyone. It's Ken Dorsey and the Miami Hurricanes. Everywhere else was competition. When you look at the wide receiving core of Reggie Wayne, Santana Moss, who go out and have spectacular games, they might not talk after the game. You see what I'm saying? Although they're buddy-buddy,
I got you.
Santana
They compete
had
each
the
other.
game where he got off. Yeah, they compete. Like it might take a day before they're back to like, yeah, dog, we have a good game. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
If I got off, Willis ain't coming to give me no hug. Like, he's standing on the sideline like, shit, I would have got 250. Frankie G standing back here like, nah, dog, I got to get my opportunity. Sean T standing over here like, Ed Reed just got a pick. Wait till I get my opportunity.
Right.
Jonathan Vilmerson over here like, I'm busting anything that come through. Anything that move, I'm knocking out. And DJ Williams like, nah, I'm knocking him out. And then you got a young Rocky McIntosh trying to figure out, hey, boy, this just like Mike Tyson.
I forgot about Rocky McIntosh. God,
you see what I'm saying? And then you got
still would have beat y'all by 40.
Who's sitting like, what? Man, you got to be kidding. Roscoe Parrish, like, bro, you all would have got smoked. Like, smoke. Because we were grown men. These guys are kids. Like, we were grown men playing that game.
CP.
And we were all just as young as these dudes. Remember, I came into the NFL at 20.
Yep, I remember. Well, CP, man, I appreciate you, dog. This was fun. I had to get you on to talk about this. I would love to get you on and just talk about more, man, especially life.
Anytime you want some smoke, anytime you're looking for some action, I'm well around. The basketball, baseball, football, whatever. We didn't even get a chance for me to really get to you and tell you how I was thumping y'all last when we played Pittsburgh and y'all defense was shut down, hadn't given up nothing to anyone, and Coach Zorn sacrificed that game. Remember that.
CP, I was hurt that game. I know I was injured, first off. I had just thrown my shoulder out. And you know, if I'd have been out there, you wouldn't have been saying all that. Because we've been out there hunting.
Man, you already know about that action, baby. I'm going in here with a grenade on me. I'm walking to the restaurant with a grenade on. Anybody move can get it.
Well, man, I appreciate
Anybody
you.
Move can get it.
I appreciate you, dog. I love you, man. Safe travels. Thanks for coming on, man. I'll holler at you, boy.
Hey, for sure, man. Good luck. Take care.
Appreciate it. Man, that was CPK with some fire. That was good. I enjoyed that. You know, anytime I get an opportunity to do something where I can have Matt Moscona on, I want to have him on. Now, guys, I'm going to tell you this. I've never seen someone so upset every time a caller, a guest, anybody made a point. Now, Matt knew this was coming. It was supposed to happen yesterday, and I told him I wanted him on the show. There was a huge reason why I didn't say a ton of things to CP was because Matt and I talked about this on Monday, and I didn't want to steal certain things he put in my head, because what he did was he told me a certain few things, and I went Googled, and I was like, well, let me see what that guy was like at UM that year. Or let me see what this dude did. And he was right. And so we're going to take a quick break, and I'm going to get Matt on, man, and he's going to give us the counter argument as to why LSU was the greatest college football season. LSU's 2019 season was the greatest college football season we've ever seen. Be right back. Man, CP came with some fire. I let him talk, one, because I'm a gracious host, and that's what gracious hosts do. When I go on after further review and I go on these tangents.
Not if you bring someone in for a debate. You don't let them.
I didn't necessarily, listen, it wasn't necessarily a debate to me. I wanted to hear his points, and I knew I was bringing you on, and I wanted to hear your points. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like you two guys will be debating points.
You should let me debate him. I'm getting him on after further review, and I'm talking to Clinton Portis because do you seen the movie Next Friday?
I've seen it.
All right.
I've seen all the Fridays.
When Day Day is being chased by Baby D,
mm-hmm.
and Craig is sitting in the back going, "Don't run for that girl, Baby D. Better not run for that." That's how I felt, man, watching you, RC. You let Clinton Portis come in here.
I let him talk. See, that's what happens. You always tell people, right, when they're like, man, I love you, and RC on after further review, what do you say? You say, you know what?
I shut up and I let RC talk.
So I had to let CP talk because you were coming on.
But there's no counterpoint. First of all, okay, hang on. You want to talk about the championship game, Clinton Portis? You beat a Nebraska team that gave up 60 to Colorado in the regular season finale. There were no conference championship games. You played a Nebraska team that gave up 60 to Colorado. So if you're going to sit there and try to tell me about being on the sideline against Nebraska because you had 30 at half, it's because Colorado scored 60 against them. So I don't know anything about the Nebraska team. First of all, here's the other thing I got real quick. Out of total respect, I love 2001 Miami.
Oh, they're unbelievable.
That is
unbelievable.
For the duration of my life, I've always said 95 Nebraska, 01 Miami are the two best teams I've ever seen.
Was 95 Nebraska Tommy Frazier?
Yes.
Okay.
The team that beat Florida, that scored 62 on Florida in the championship game. In 95. They were Lawrence Phillips. They were awesome. They were incredible. Now that was a different style of ball, and I get it, but whatever. But Miami, I loved watching 01 Miami. Now, the other thing about Clinton Portis real quick, he kept talking about Santana Moss and Reggie Wayne. Santana Moss and Reggie Wayne did not play on the 2001 Miami team. They were already in the league. They did not play in 01. You want to know who the three best receivers were for Miami in 2001?
Andre
Ryan
Johnson.
Clark. You had Andre Johnson. You know how many catches Andre Johnson had?
Like 40.
He had 37 catches that year for under 700 yards. I think Justin Jefferson had that in the first half against Oklahoma, by the way. All right. Then you know who number 2 was? Ethnic Sands. And you know who number 3 was? It was Kevin Beard. Those were your 3 wide receivers.
I don't even know who that guy is.
You want to tell me that those 3 receivers are better as a tandem than Chase, Jefferson, Marshall? And then you want to sit there and start talking about tight ends. Jeremy Shockey was awesome. Thad Moss this year did not drop a single pass as rated by Pro Football Focus. Dude was awesome. Maybe I'd give a slight edge to Shockey in that end.
I'm just going to say this. I played with Shockey. Shockey was
He was great.
He was great.
But the other point, too, is, man, all right, hold on. Now you want people say, well, Kellen Winslow. He was, but Kellen Winslow didn't play that year. Just because guys were on a team don't mean nothing. Let me tell you something else. Clinton Portis was an amazing running back, and you might even give the edge to Portis over Clyde. Both were awesome, and I think Portis was the first round pick, and Clyde's got a shot to be. He's probably going to be a second round pick.
But they're second round pick.
Second round. Okay, fine. You're a second round pick. So Clyde's going to be a second round pick, but they're different styles of back. Now, here's the other thing, let me tell you. All right? He's going to sit there and talk about Willis McGahee and Frank Gore, who are awesome running backs. You know who? But neither one of those guys had over 60 carries on the season. They were like 64 and 63 on the year, the whole season. That's what John Emery and Ty Davis Price did this year. Like, if you want to wait 5 years from now and see what Emery and Price are, then we can back up and say, they were on that team. Well, they were on that team, but they didn't do anything on this team.
Give it to him, Scotty.
And by the way, let's not forget the fact that you got the greatest quarterback in the history of college football who had this season of Joe Burrow. Then you're talking about Ken Dorsey. Joe Burrow, Ken Dorsey. This isn't close. By the way, hey, you know what that offense that Clint, why didn't you let me talk to him while he was here? You think I'd be scared to tell Clint Portis to his face?
You know why? Because there is no way people would have understood the conversation if you did this. And then Clinton, who said he would wear a grenade into a restaurant.
Yeah, that would have been bad. All right, but now let me tell you something else about this. Clinton Portis and that great offense that you all had in Miami, it was a great offense. But you got to sit there and tell me about where you had to go to West Virginia and how Boston College was gloomy. Let me tell you something about that game against Boston College. I remember that game. Do you remember that?
I do remember the game.
You know the final score of that game?
I don't know the final score.
18-7. Miami scored 18 points. How many offensive touchdowns did Miami have in that game?
Zero.
They kicked 4 field goals and Ed Reed had to defend. He stole the ball away from some bastard. Some poor guy. Ed Reed was like, give me the ball.
D-tackle.
Well, it don't matter who it was. But the point is, you're a world-class offense with Clinton Portis and Andre Johnson and Ken Dorsey and Jeremy Sykes. You couldn't score a single touchdown in Chestnut Hill against 49,000 people in Boston College. And you're going to sit there trying to tell me LSU couldn't score? You're trying to... Ain't nobody put the clamps on his head. The two best defenses in college football this year were Clemson and Georgia. LSU did whatever they had to with both of them. 600 yards, 40 points.
I said they scored 40 points.
LSU would have scored 40 on that Miami defense. And with all the respect in the world, they were a great defense with a ton of talent. LSU would have scored 40 on them. And let me tell you something. You bring that on. Hey, Clinton. Bring that offense you brought to Chestnut Hill, to Tiger Stadium, or wherever you want to play the game. Go to the old Orange Bowl. Fine. I was there too. The place was a dump. Anyway, you want to go down there with the 50,000 fans in that stadium? It was a dump, open end, whatever. You know what you do? Joe Burrow's going to hang 60 on you, bro. You better come ready to score 50.
Right. So Sconey, so you wanted me.
So, wait, one more thing. He's sitting there talking about how nobody could move the ball in that defense. Do you know Florida State scored 27 on that Miami defense with Chris Ricks as their quarterback? Are you kidding me, Clinton Portis? That defense allowed Chris Ricks, not even Wanky, the Heisman guy, not even any of the really good ones. Chris Ricks. It wasn't Michael Vick. It was Chris Ricks.
You good? You're sweating, bro.
Bro, I saw you. I took so much restraint to sit over there and not say anything. But I was respecting that was your show.
Well, the thing is, I could have had you out here. There's no way, if this happens while CP is on, that we have an actual show people can listen to.
It would have been so good. Do you know that?
It'd have been so. It'd have been no. It wouldn't. It wouldn't have.
You should delete this. Bring him back
and do it again. No, I'm not. Especially after watching you do this. And two, what I let you do was you could sit on the side, and then every time he said something, you could go check it.
You just watched me.
Right. You could be like, you know what? No, that's not right. And you'd go check it, and then you were ready to come out. I actually made you better at your job.
I was ready.
So the question is this then.
LSU by 50.
Right. Obviously. Oh, you knew the question. Be for real here. Like, take your heart out of it. We both believe LSU had the greater season. When you look at the teams they had to play, the way they produced.
Who's a better quarterback, Kelly Bryant or
Ken Dorsey?
No, Sunshine. Trevor Lawrence or Ken Dorsey?
Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that.
What receiving core would you take? Andre Johnson and his band of merry men, or T. Higgins and the kids from Clemson?
I'd take them all day.
Yeah, you would, wouldn't you? Now, Clinton Portis, he was a dog, but I think Travis Etienne's pretty good too.
Yes.
Maybe a push there. What do you think? Etienne's going to be a first-round pick when he comes out.
Yeah, push. We'll go push. College.
How did that team do?
They lost. They got blown out.
How did that game go?
They got blown out.
See you.
Well, people, that was Matt Moscona.
Face first.
He went face first for sure. Listen, I tried to host this episode. I didn't necessarily want to get in the debate. This is my first time I've ever had an unruly guest like Matty Moscona on. Matty came back. Right?
Now you met Matty Moscona.
Yeah, that's Matty Moscona. That's the guy that had the what was it? Davy Disciple? Was it a Davy?
By the way, 0-1 LSU with Rohan Davey, Josh Reed, Michael Clayton. By the time that game happened in December, if that LSU team in 0-1 would have put up 30 on that Miami team. Nobody wanted Rohan Davey by the end of the year. Tell me I'm wrong.
He's not.
Hey, tell me I'm wrong. You were on that team, RC.
Hey, I'm not Clinton Portis. Why are you screaming at me? I'm not Clinton Portis. Well, guys, you've now met Matty Moscona. That was face first. I usually end it with something profound, and I try to tie everything in together to make things make sense. It's so you can be like, you know what? Ryan doesn't just come on the show and spew ignorance and scream and make things not only just debates, but make things uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable, guys. I go on Matt's show every week during the season, and I basically just take it over, and I just do what I want to do because like he lets me come on and he doesn't bother me. I can tell stories. I go back through movies like Troy and Rocky. I get off the subject all the time, and sometimes he brings me back to football. Sometimes he doesn't. Matt was on subject the whole time, but he was absolutely uncontrollable. I now realize how difficult it is for him to host after further review when I'm the guest. I did nothing this show. I just sat here. I sat here and I let Clinton make his case. Then I let Matt make his case. And there was a reason I didn't put them together, because I knew that was how it was going to be. I had one guy talk about strapping grenades to him, and I had another guy literally go face first at the other one when he wasn't even around to go face first at. This has been the highlight of my podcast hosting career. It's very short, but this has been the highlight. Matt says LSU wins. I agree. Head to head, I believe they win. What I know more than anything is that LSU had the greater season when you compare LSU in 2019 and the University of Miami in 2001. Now, that team's going to have Hall of Famers. They already have Ed Reed. They're probably going to get more. And if we go down the list of the depth chart, they're going to have guys who make it who didn't even play that much that year. But what we do know is when it comes to greatness, there has been nobody greater than Joe Burrow. And if you give me Joe Burrow against Ken Dorsey any day, anytime, any league, any team, I'm taking the team that Joe Burrow quarterbacks for. This has been my favorite episode of DB Precision's Face First. This is RC. And for Matt Moscona, we gonna holla at you.
Looked over, but still dedicated. Played in the league for 13. I ain't gotta be favorite.